4, 3.
And we are back here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, and joining us, 2/3 of the MGoBlog Roundtable crew. Brian is out sick today, but the guys are going to hold it down. Let's start off first with Seth Fisher from the blog. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing okay, but I've been hearing a lot from different relatives of mine because everyone I'm related to went to Michigan State. And all of a sudden, they're basketball fans, Sam. They'd forgotten about basketball for months, and all of a sudden they just they look around and they're like, "Hey, we got a basketball team, and we're gonna kick your basketball team's butt." So now they're experts. Just in a second, people who didn't even watch basketball suddenly became experts in the last 24 hours. It's incredible how much they've learned.
And the venerable Craig Ross is with us again. Craig, good morning. How are you?
I'm about halfway there. So we're not a whole round table. We're Seth a third and me about a third of a third. So what is that? Whatever. And so I'm trying a ninth, maybe a little more than a ninth. But in any event, since Brian isn't here, I want to take Sam to task.
Okay.
For something that he said on Monday. Okay. And I rarely do this. But to start this, when I was a kid growing up in Lorain, Ohio, the pro wrestling was real. It wasn't this fake stuff now. It was none of this spandex. You had real pro wrestling. And occasionally a pro wrestling match would come into Lorain, a Lorain Armory. And it would usually be some guy who was known, like Elio DePaulo, who you probably never heard of. He was like the poor man's Argentina Rocca. And so it'd be Elio DePaulo, but they didn't really, in Lorain, they didn't really have anyone for him to wrestle against. So they would inevitably come up with some guy from town, and they'd call him a local talent. And promoters got used to this idea of local talents. So on Monday, local talent was an equation for stiff, some guy they found on the street.
Okay.
Right. All right. So on Monday, Sam, in referencing the MGoBlog Roundtable, called us, quote, local talents. So, personally, I'm not offended. I'm not a talent at all. I'm nothing. But, Seth and Brian are actually talented and are more than local talents. So I'm taking up the cudgel for them and saying, Sam, when you talk about the roundtable, you can talk about me as a local talent because that's okay, but not Brian and Seth because they're much more than that. That's the deal.
I think this is in reference to we had the M Live candidates when we had Sam.
Yeah, we had Sam Jane on, and we were talking about how in the 9 o'clock hour we like to feature our local guys. We have
local talent
usually on Tuesdays,
our stiffs
on Wednesdays. John Bacon is a local on Friday, and we talked about the roundtable too. You guys aren't stiffs.
No, we like to bring our people. Okay, our people locally. From
I'm not local. I'm out here in West Bloomfield. I got a 40-minute drive every time I got to come be with you people. And I'm not going near you people because you're all dead sick right now. Brian's sick. Craig had the plague. I'm not going near you people.
Yeah. We got Eric Adelson down. He's from here. He's down in Orlando. Steve Clark is in Saline. Of course, we just talked to Mike Spath. That typically is our crew. Scott Bell. That's how we typically.
He's in Dallas.
But he's a local guy that's now in Dallas. Yeah, Bacon is very local.
People from here, John Bacon, exactly. Anyway, I know.
Yeah.
The Tuesday matchup, top 5 matchup between Michigan and Nebraska. Never thought I'd utter the words, but it was a game that lived up to it despite Nebraska being shorthanded, rink masked, having whatever Craig has now, couldn't play in the game, and yet they came out and they were on fire. But Michigan, like they have done here for a better part of the last month, found a way to grind out a victory in a game where the other team was playing its best, at least in the first half. I'm curious what your biggest takeaways were from that victory over number 5 Nebraska at the time. We'll start with you, Craig.
He's muted.
Craig, you're muted.
I think he muted his cough and didn't unmute himself.
One of the ugliest games ever played at Chrysler, especially the second half. First half had some merit, I guess. It just wasn't a fun game. Hoiberg, who's Izzo's buddy, decided, the best way to play Michigan is the way Izzo plays, and that's play football, don't play basketball. And the screens were, I sit close to the court, and the screens were unreal. I never saw anything quite like it, including something I've never seen in basketball, the steamroller screen. But still, even with that, Michigan was able to, I felt, check most of the threes adequately in the first half. That Nebraska had 2 long threes they made, one from 3 feet beyond the line, one 4 feet beyond the line, that were more or less unchecked. Basically, everything else was checked, or at least reasonably checked, even if it was a late-ish closeout. But Nebraska made shots, and they're a good shooting team, and they know what they're doing. And their point guard, even though when I mentioned how good I thought he was 2 or 3 weeks ago on this show, Brian gave me the fisheye and the hoo-ha, and I said, no, kid is good. He may not be an NBA player, but that kid understands basketball, understands how to organize a team, understands how to get the ball to his guys. Very, very fine and very undervalued player. I think his name is Sam Hoiberg. I think he's the coach's kid. And they've got shooters. In the first half, they made 10 of 19. Then, Fred Hoiberg, according to some, was now the greatest coach in the United States. Then in the second half, they made what? 1 of 15? And 1 of 13. Okay. Michigan did press the edges a little tighter, and they did give up a few baskets at the rim, uncontested. That's true. But Michigan still got a lot more at the rim. And Ken Pom, interestingly enough, is doing I don't know if you noticed this, Seth, is doing a new thing. They're doing how far from the rim.
Yeah. It's in my charts. It's in because I've been about this for years.
Yeah.
I've been on this for years about trying to represent where you're taking your twos from, because it's a huge, huge difference. And you can track who's good at basketball mostly based off of what kind of twos they take.
I could not agree more, and neither could Ken Pomeroy. And Ken Pomeroy agrees with you. Mm-hmm. And if you look at that chart, if you look at the game and the chart, you'll see that Michigan was getting shot. I think Michigan's number 1 in the country. Their average 2-point range, I believe, is like 4.6 feet. In this game, it was 4.3 feet. So they even had better quality of looks. And Michigan is also, maybe they're very, very, very high.
So their average is 4.6. Yeah, they're 15th in the country in average 2-point distance. Now, keep in mind, the teams that are above them are pretty much teams that have like a 7-footer in the SWAC or something, right?
Right.
So yeah, those teams are the ones who are like, all we can do is put the ball in the net from the rim, or if we can get it there. Right. They're number 1 in the country in average 2-point distance.
Like
7.7. Yeah. So they keep you away from the rim, and they get to the rim more than anybody on their level.
And in this game, I believe Michigan was even closer to the rim than their 4.6. I think they were 4.4. And I think on defense, Nebraska did a little bit better than ordinary, but still than Michigan's ordinary, but still on a national basis, it was below average. And so to me, I look at this game and I 100% agree with you, 100% agree with Pomeroy. The number one thing you can look at, and I've never talked about it on this show because I didn't know it was being computed. All of a sudden I open my Ken Pom and there it is. And he would argue, when your 2-point shot is distance is number 1 and your 1-point and your 2-point shot on offense is number 15, you're really near the top. And then in terms of major schools, I think Michigan is number one vis-a-vis on the offensive side, as Seth points out. So anyway, ugly game. Second, Michigan defense in the second half I thought was really good. Nebraska missed shots, which was the biggest thing in the second half. And now we go to play another football game in East Lansing.
So Seth, your takeaway.
Well, as to the football game, I hope Max Bredesen was sitting there watching that kick-out block, because he would have been like, yes, that is how you do it, right? You get your face under you, you get your arms extended, and you drive. You drive that guy out to the outside, and that was way to go, Nebraska. You're walking into Michigan, you're hit the basketball game between football schools, and you bring out the Max Bredesen play. That is telling that is they understood the assignment. And then that tackle, I think it was by Jamark Lawrence. That was a form tackle. I hope whichever Hoiberger's doing linebackers is sitting next to NOB and Chase Taylor. I mean, like, see that? You grab under the knees, you wrap up, and you roll. That is how you do it. Well done, Nebraska. Great football, great football technique, and thanks for showing us how to do it on both sides of the ball. Yeah. That said, and they at least called the tackle, but your guys are getting a little hard on Hoiberg, and you're responding to something I hadn't said yet, which is Hoiberg had a great game. Fred Hoiberg, Sam Hoiberg had a great game as well. The son, the father, the coach, had an amazing game plan. Now, first of all, we talk about 2-point defense and 2-point offense all the time. We've been saying that for years. Matt D from our site is going to post something, I think, in about 10 minutes. I urge everybody to read this thing on our site. It'll be up about 9:30. You can read it today. And he's going to get into just the way that he set up those screens to mess with the way that Michigan switches. Because Michigan wants to switch a certain way. They want to switch 1 to 4, and they want to leave Mara available to put his hand in the way at the rim. That's kind of how we've been playing. And that's why we have that 2-point defense, right? Now, Nebraska doesn't score a lot of twos. They're probably in the Big Ten, at the bottom of scoring twos. My numbers said that they get 33% of their shots at the rim, which is like 270th in the country, and 17% of their shots are other twos, which is 322nd. So they're a 3-point shooting team, and what they wanted to do was get those looks. And they got those looks for Jamark Lawrence. They got those looks for Price Sanford, who is, that's what he does. Price Sanford pulls up and shoots threes. And they knew that's how you have to beat this team. Michigan was far more talented. Dusty May put a much better roster on the court. And that was before they lost Rink Mast. They were already without Braden Frager, their great freshman who's been their sixth man. So they had a very short bench. They had to play Cale Jacobson, who's not much of an offensive player. He actually played very well. They had to play Leo Curtis, who's that 7-foot Icelandic guy who shows up when everyone's like, who's 33, right? He's got I think 5% usage this year. And they put that guy out there, and he played pretty well as well. So they got contributions from their bench, but not much. Most of their guys had to play about 36 minutes or 35 minutes in this game. And by the end, you could see, I think they were just exhausted. I think Sanford puts up a 3 that they get off of on transition, and the airballs it near the end of the game. And that brings Chrysler alive, and we go and win the game. But he airballed that ball because he was exhausted, because the system that they were running was it was old Pistons, right? It was like running guys across the court on both sides, right? Those double screens. And that's a lot of running. And if you're going to be in the half court and you're going to be running back and forth so much, it's going to wear you down. So I think it kind of played against him in the end, but it played very well in the beginning, and it got them open looks. It got them free shots at the basket whenever Michigan missed a switch. There were a couple plays, and Matt D is going to draw this up, where we just, old Rip Hamilton, somebody said in the chat. That was exactly what I'm thinking of. They were, But he's going to draw this on the chat. There is no way to defend it the way that Michigan has their defense. And they had to adjust in the second half a bit. But that was brilliant. Hoiberg had this game circled, and you could tell. And they had a brilliant strategy, and I just want to give them credit for that, because you don't see that very often in the middle of the Big Ten, that you have a game this titanic, and somebody comes in and they prep for it like it was the Ohio State football game.
Yeah, so I guess I saw it different than Craig in the first half. I thought they got really good looks. I don't think that it didn't feel like they were getting, nailing just a bunch of contested threes. I thought they got Jamarcus Lawrence, Price Sanford. They got them free several times, and free for those guys, or especially Sanford. Free for him is different than free for
Right.
most other
Yeah, just get him a few inches off the screen. He's good.
That's fair.
Yeah, he just needs he just needs a little bit of airspace to be able to knock it down. And I thought that Michigan, to the point that you were just making there, Seth, they were getting lost on switches. That happened a couple times. And then when it came to their the intensity with which the guards were fighting through screens, they were getting hung up on too many of those screens. They did a much better job of being of what Dusty, I can't remember the term he used, but he talked about basically the intensity of being attached to your guy. Like, you have got to be playing max effort all the time, because it's a marathon every time down the floor in the half court. That's exactly what I said in postgame. I said Rip Hamilton, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen. You gotta run. You're gonna run off screens this way. You're gonna run it off.
I think the action is actually literally called Iverson. So yeah.
It's going to be, and there's never any time off, and so you got to play that way all the time. Then you had the turnover issue. I mean, I think Elliott had 5 turnovers in the first half. Nebraska had 5 as a team. They did a good job taking care of the basketball. Michigan didn't. And then you had the disparity 3-point shooting wise. Now, the biggest difference to me in that respect is Nebraska was able to knock down their good looks. Michigan got some good looks that they just flat out missed. That's been kind of a little bit of a theme here in the last 5 or 6 games, sans the last 2, where they had shot around 40% from 3, but they couldn't throw it in the ocean in that game. To their credit, and Dusty talked about this, Namari talked about it as well. He said the communication defensively picked up significantly in the second half. They were much better in not getting lost on switches. And then Dusty really commended. He said, there's an intensity with which you have to play a team like that. Your guys have got to understand that, you got to be running as hard as they run. You got to be as physical getting through the screen as they are in screening you, especially with what the refs are letting you get away with, right? So we saw those things improve in the second half of this game, and I think that's going to obviously serve them well when they match up again, and they will have Braden Frager and Rink Mass, and I'm predicting that these will be the top 2 teams in the Big Ten, and these will be the 2 teams we see in the Big Ten tournament championship. That's why I'm saying they're going to see this squad again, and they're going to be full strength at that time.
I don't know. So the Big Ten championship is weird because it favors teams that are deep. They can they can roll out a second lineup, and that's not Nebraska, right? You see number 1 seeds go out all the time, and then it ends up being like Wisconsin at the end, because Wisconsin just replaces with more Wisconsin guys every year. So I'm not, but yeah, I don't want to face these guys again. Because what's Michigan? Michigan destroys your 2-point offense. They obliterate your 2-point offense, right? And Michigan State's going to have an interesting solution too, if we want to kind of roll into that game, because they shoot a lot of other 2s. I have them, my numbers, 28% of their shots are other 2s. They only shoot 38% on those, so they're not efficient shots, but they're fairly efficient shots, and they're 9th in the country. Ninth among power programs, D1 top programs that are top conferences that they just shoot a lot of 2s, and that's Jeremy Fear shooting floaters, right? That's Carson Cooper and Kohler will kind of step out a little bit and take a couple mid-range shots all the time. And those are a lot harder to stop. Michigan's really built to stop you from getting to the rim. So if you can make shots and then muck up the rest of the game, I think that was something we said earlier in the season. We were like, well, who can stop this Michigan juggernaut when they were destroying Gonzaga by 40 points? We're like, who's going to be tough to play? And I said Michigan State, because Michigan State is going to force you away from the rim. They're going to pack the paint. They're going to either force you to shoot outside or get you out in a run game. And they're one of the few teams that can actually match up with Michigan if they want to turn it into a race course, right? So Yeah, I mean, they're just going to throw Cohen Carr the other way, and then they're going to, foul Mara as he's trying to get the ball, and it's going to bounce off his hands and go out of bounds. Like, especially in Breslin, right? The Big Ten officiating hates Michigan to start with, and once you get to Breslin, like, all bets are off. We've seen some crazy things go on there. So I think that's going to be very difficult for Michigan to get the ball into the post, to play their game, which is a smooth game, because it's going to be so just hacky and hip checky and grabby, and Carson Cooper loves to fall down and grab someone and bring him down with him, and Jackson Kohler is so dirty on his over the back rebounds. Like, this, it's just, they're a gritty team, and that's why they're number one in defense in the country this year. This State team is gritty as hell.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I agree with some of what's said, and I disagree with some of what's been said. First of all, Nebraska was better off probably in the first half without Rink Mast. In second half, probably not, because you weren't going to put somebody in who's going to shoot it any better than the guys who were shooting the ball in the first place. Number two, along these lines, a short bench is often a good thing. I've said this before, that the best teams I've seen have short benches, including Michigan's best team ever, or most interesting, in my opinion, the Ricky Green, Phil Hubbard teams, 6 guys, and that was it. And those teams always played to the top of their potential. In terms of the air ball, that wasn't because he was tired. He threw the air ball off because A, you could see him rush it, and B, because he never got his feet under him at all because he was rushing it. And so that was a mechanical error, not a tiredness error. And on the turnovers, I'd like to know who does the turnovers are real and is a problem. I mean, the number of unforced we had, I think, 19 turnovers was the count in the game. I think it was probably 20, but they call it 19. And I would say half of them were completely unforced. Just plays that were just rushed passes, pointless passes, and sometimes these turnovers, I think they ended up with Cadeau having 8, which is wrong because one of them was on Mara. He's not looking for the ball. It almost hits him in the snout, and they call it a turnover on Cadeau. But yeah, I mean, did Nebraska play a smart game? Yes. Does Hoiberg know what he's doing? Yes. Did they lose? Yes. And is Dusty May winning a lot more games than Fred Hoiberg up to this date? Yes. Will he continue to win a lot more games than Fred Hoiberg? Yes.
He's got a better team. That's the thing. I mean, say Fred Hoiberg, he was the best coach. Coaching is putting a roster together just as much as it is tactics during the day, right? Yeah. And Dusty May can put a roster together. Look at this team, right? Everyone's like, okay, number one portal guy in the country is Yaxel Lenenberg. He goes out and gets Yaxel Lenenberg.
He played for crap, incidentally.
He played for crap in this game. But guess what? You know who might have been a better portal pickup than Yaxel Lenenberg? If anyone in the country, Morez Johnson. Yeah. And they made that scout, and they put money towards that too. That they went to Morez because they got him out of Illinois. So it must have taken some money, right?
He's coaching as well because Morez, one of the reasons he left Illinois was because his offense away from the basket was basically a no-no. And so they're honing that. Not to say that he's a three-point shooter, but to me, the more impressive play was when they came out on him. He put it on the floor, drove to the rim, and got an and one.
Yeah, Morez's game is developing. Another reason why I ain't trading Dusty May for Fred Hoiberg or anybody else. I mean, because you can see the development in the players. And Morez, for example, made a 3 in this game. Actually looked pretty good, and mechanically I think that's the second 3 he's made this year. And his game is advancing. His game is improving. He's in my mind, he's a first-round NBA pick.
He's made 5 this year, by the way. He's 5 of 13 from 3. Morez Johnson's 5 of 13 from 3 this year.
I didn't realize that. So there you go. And so there's so much good to say about what Dusty May has done. I mean, if you start one, and incidentally, I disagree with Sam on the looks. Nebraska's looks in the second half were better than the looks they had in the first. That's a fact. That is a fact, because I looked at every single 3-point shot in slow motion, and at the worst you could say was they were about the same, but in fact the second half looks were better. They just missed them, and this is something that people just don't seem to appreciate about basketball. Sometimes the ball goes in, sometimes it does not.
Well, I mean, I guess at the game or talking to the guys, they felt like there was a discernible difference.
They played the 3-point line harder. I agree with that, and that allowed a couple of baskets at the rim that otherwise might not have happened.
He said, "Hey, when you play like how we started playing defensively in the second half, they're gonna get some backdoors. They're gonna be able to get some runs."
Correct. I agree,
and I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is what we saw in the first half, where I didn't see guys getting through screens, staying attached to their guys. And he said, now maybe the film will tell him otherwise, but this certainly was how it looked to me. It's like I felt like it was better in the second half. But you go from 10 for 19 to 1 for 13, and they're just missing shots that's random.
Yes.
Some of these plays, I want to just get into some of those plays, and this is why we're singing Hoiberg's praises today. Some of those plays were just drawn up really well. When I do football charting, and yes, people in the comments, I will get to those football charts, I swear. I'm slowly working through the Ohio State game still. But when I do football charting, we have a thing called RPS, which is just like, okay, you called the right play for that situation. Hoiberg, at several key moments, like Michigan gets within 2, and then all of a sudden he's got like this one play is drawn up, or the very first play of the game, or like 4 minutes left in the first half, when like Michigan's starting to kind of put a run together. He dials these things up, and they work off of things that they've shown. The first one worked off of things that they'd shown in their previous games, and like Michigan's ready for the switch, and all of a sudden Axel Lenneberg slams into Namari Burnett, and they get a free shot to the rim. Those are what I was talking about. He really drew up things that play off of what they were doing before. And that's not something you can always go tap. That's something you have to see in film. You have to self-scout it. You have to realize, we've been doing this. Let's plan the counter. And he used a lot of his counters. He had these prepared in order to use against Michigan, and he used them at key moments. And I think sometimes basketball is a little bit of a, it's a momentum sport, especially when you're on the road. And I think that they use that to kind of quiet Chrysler down a little bit. I thought he used them, he designed them well, and he used them brilliantly. And that's what I was talking about. As a tactical coach, it was one of the best jobs I'd ever seen. I want to give him credit for it.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm game for seeing him again, I thought the guards had especially Elliott had one of his worst games of the season, offensively and defensively. Some of the turnovers were like, man. The pass he threw late to not the first one where he almost hit a die in the face, or he did hit a die in the face, but the one where in transition he throws it over a couple guys with a die running down the floor full speed. He's supposed to catch it, couple dribbles, and get to the rim. That was never going to happen, right? Especially at that point in the game. So I don't think that you're going to see Elliott Cadeau in a matchup play as poorly as he did in that game. I don't think you're going to see Namari Burnett go 0 for 5 from 3. And one of the big keys in this game is, your best player in that contest was 3 for 10. I think for Michigan, one of the charges in this game, because you're singing the praises of Hoiberg, I think one of the charges in this game is, how are they going to get good situations for Yaxel Lindenborg? Right? Can you get him the kind of opportunities where it felt like his best looks on the day were the threes that he missed? But the things going to the basket, I think he had a dunk in there, but it was throwing it up on the rim, getting an offensive rebound and putting it back in. He just had a lot of traffic that he was able to get through. If you can get him some one-on-ones or some open opportunities inside the arc, I think that is going to be what I'm looking at in this game against Michigan State from this coaching staff. What are they able to concoct? What are they able to draw up? Yaks?
What I've seen is that Yaks has been drawing the better defender I think that when you scout Michigan, you go, okay, that's the guy we got to stop. And they know that Michigan, if Yax is not feeling or not getting his points, that Michigan's going to go and try to feed him and trying to get him some things, or at least try to get him going at the 3-point line to kind of scare you a little bit. And I think that's opened things up for Rez. You talked about that show and go that ended up with an and one. Well, he does that against two guards. Well, why is he facing two guards? Because they ran out of forwards, right? You got one guy on Mari, you got one guy on Yax. That's it. You're out of big guys who can check those guys. And I think part of Rez's offensive, he's been great offensively this year. But I think part of that has got to be because Yaxel's drawing some of the attention. And I think that's fine. That's what I'm talking about, building a team. And Dusty May built a great team. Yaxel doesn't have to just be scoring in order to be helping Michigan win. One of the key reasons they won this game is because Morez Johnson was able to carry them offensively. He was able to do that because Yaxel was drawing attention, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and shout out to Trey McKinney. Got to get him on a day where the guards were struggling. He came off the bench and hit some big shots. Both threes were big. That drive, at the end of the game, where I don't know how. I mean, I felt like Michigan. They were allowing the road team to be more physical than the home team, which just boggles my mind. It's like, are you guys gonna give Dusty should have the deference in this matchup? Damn it, and that's gonna be one of the interesting things about playing in East Lansing. Izzo has all these officials. He has intimidated that they get a real home court advantage with the officials too. How will Michigan? How will Dusty play that? Because I kind of see him getting with the refs a little bit more. I think you got to. I'm a believer in you got to condition refs. You got to condition them to give you, some deference too, especially in the situation where they're inclined to go with the home team like they're going to be.
I mean, Izzo's had 40 years to condition these guys. They're not going to catch up to that.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to hit on Trey McKinney real quick.
Yeah,
He's such
too.
a sixth man on this team, right? This year, he can be whatever you need, right? You need someone to go and play some defense. He'll come in and play some defense all of a sudden. You're not hitting your threes. He comes in and hits 2 threes. You're not knocking down your free throws against Ohio State. He comes down and knocks down a couple free throws. Like, this dude is such a sixth man. He can change whenever there's something going wrong. You can bring him in and he'll change it. I love that about McKinney. And he's such a versatile player, right? He's big, but he was a guard, and he can play like a guard, or he can, like, sometimes he's not really a creator yet, but you can see sometimes that he's seeing it kind of come about. And, you see LJ Kayson is a year older than him and been on this team for a year longer. And Kayson's screwing up switches right and left. And Kayson is just a little bit off on his bounce passes and generating bad turnovers, and McKinney doesn't do it. And you see him in the same spots and he's so well developed for what he is. I love McKinney on this team. He's really coming into himself. And I mean, next year he's gonna be a starter, but right now, sixth man on this team is Trey McKinney.
Yeah, he those threes, the 3 free throws when he was fouled out there, that was absolutely huge. He nailed every one of them. I mean, it's like a no doubt. But I like that he's starting to put it on the floor more, starting to drive them, because they're going to play him now to shoot. So he's going to get leverage on closeouts every day of the week. Can he finish? What can he do getting to the rim? And I've just been impressed with that part of it. Seeing him spin, get to the rim, get through contact, or get fouled. Like, who's going to draw fouls for this team? You got to, get downhill, and he's going to get downhill without a ball screen. So that about him.
Lamar can draw fouls because they like to put him on the line. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I'm just going to say I think it's another example you see of players developing, and Trey McKinney is definitely developing. He's a better player now than he was in November. He was extremely comfortable in a very difficult environment, I thought, the other night, and was one of our better players on the floor for certain. And maybe in some respects the best. And so, yeah, I like that. And, I just happen to, because I'm one who never minds beating a dead horse. But I just looked at Fred Hoiberg's record at Nebraska. Yes? 104 and 109, playing all meatballs out of conference. So with the all meatball schedule, he's 104 and 109. What does that make him at Michigan? Fired. Now, so I thought, well, what's the comparable coach, in my opinion, who I also think is a good coach, because I think Hoiberg is a good coach, Chris Collins. And what's his record? 203 and 201 at Northwestern. So they both had a ton of games. Collins is then slightly better in terms of wins and losses. They both do the all meatball out of conference schedule. Okay, so they can do X's and O's. Great. Congratulations.
Hoiberg is 46 and 29 in the Big Ten. After losing this game, he's 46 and 29 in the Big Ten career. At Nebraska. Come on.
Yeah, we'll pick this up on the other side. Back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA online at big1050.com.
And we are clear. No, Craig, Hoiberg was a disaster for 3 years, and then he got the Jim Harbaugh state, take a pay cut, but I'm going to stay. I have a plan to fix a contract. And since then, he's had 21 seasons every year.
Yeah, I'm not saying he ain't a good coach. I just feel like
but it's a disaster.
I just feel like this week it's been a bit over the top, a bit overstated. And that's so and I'm
taking this personally because I started the post game with it. I was like, okay,
I don't care.
Let's give him his laurels. He all he had was a Nick Stauskas, and that's what he made his whole offense out of, and it worked. They almost beat Michigan. Then let's turn around and give Michigan the laurels because they put a better basketball team on the court, and that's how you win basketball. Honestly, is you put a better basketball team on the court.
But I think that sort of diminishes what he's been able to accomplish when it comes to his X's and O's. I didn't think there was any way they were going to be able to play Morez and Adai together.
I thought that was possible. I didn't think they could play Yaxel, Morez, and Adai together. I said that. I didn't think that was possible. But
that too. Beeline said as much, and he's been able to accomplish that. And then the skill development with those guys, you look at, we talked about Morez, but Adai has.
Does that look like the guy you saw at UCLA last year? No, it doesn't. And this is, again, goes to my point, which is, okay, the guy can do some X's and O's. Great. So what? And maybe he'll do it again next year. And at some point I'll say, this guy is really the great American basketball coach, is what I'm hearing all around me all week.
You're not. You're overdoing it. You're overdoing it here. All right. And I'm calling you out on this because you're just, it's when you say a guy is really good tactically, he's really good tactically. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not the only thing that makes a basketball coach. Mm-hmm. But I think what he's done in Nebraska, you have to give him credit for. He's way outperformed what that school is. That basketball program.
They were really good in
130 years in Nebraska basketball. They've been to the NCAA tournament 8 times, and that's 86 years or whatever of NCAA.
He's responsible for like half of them.
0 games, and he's going to get him there again, and he's actually going to win them a game this year. First time they'll ever win an NCAA tournament game.
Yeah.
Probably.
So that's one thing. And two, being tactically brilliant, especially in one game where you circle, right? This was the game that they needed to win. They need to go on the road and beat Michigan to really demonstrate, to get everybody on board and be 21-0, right? And that was, and he got it. He had a bad hand, right? He lost Rink Mast. He was already without one of his other good players. And there was no reason they should have been able to play with Michigan. Michigan had much better players. And I thought that the difference was tactical. Now, if your tactical ability gets you 6 extra points per game, that's a big deal in basketball. 6 points a game is the difference between Mara and Cheddar. That's huge. And so you got to give him credit for that. He got them 60 extra points.
I'm not ever going to badmouth Fred Hoiberg. I just think the commentary's been over the top. Incidentally, Hoiberg's record in the Big Ten, 46 and 82. Not the number you gave me. 46 wins, 82 losses.
In the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to check my numbers. I download them from KenPom
And that
put them in my
counts.
chart.
Actually, he's 46-83 now. That counts
Okay.
9-1 this year.
I think that's his. Okay. Are you
Yeah.
counting his time at Iowa State and stuff?
No.
Okay.
He was 2-18, 3-16, 4-16, 9-11, 12-8,
I got it. We're back on radio in about 10 seconds.
9-1.
I got it. I got it
don't
wrong.
know.
I'm
This
sorry.
doesn't sound like Red Auerbach to me.
Yeah.
All right, we're back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back with you on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, the MGoBlog Roundtable crew with us. Also, before we get back to them, though, I want to tell those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle, get on board with Brighton Ford. Are you ready to take the wheel of your dream Ford? Well, at Brighton Ford, it's more than buying a car. It's a true experience. Now, through February 2nd, qualified lessees can lease a 2025 Ford Escape for as low as $256 a month, with only $3,500 down plus first payment, taxes, doc fee, title, license, and state fees due at signing. Security deposit waived, 7,500 miles per year for 38 months. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD or see dealer for full details. Make your next move easy with Brighton Ford. No hassle, no stress, and one of their expert techs can roll right up to your home or office for routine maintenance on site and on your schedule. So why wait? Call 1-800-NEW-FORD now and get on board with Brighton Ford the easy way. So we got Seth's sort of assessment of the matchup with Michigan State. Craig, I didn't get yours. How do you see this matchup? Craig, you're muted.
I'm embarrassed to say I haven't seen enough Michigan State this year to really feel good about it. I think the one big guy, the guy with the Davy Crockett haircut, Kohler,
That guy.
is a super good player. Way underrated. He started to come along last year. Yeah, I think he's an NBA player because he can. I think so because I think he'll play the 3-4, and the kid can shoot the ball. He has a beautiful shot. He makes the three. I think he's way undervalued. Their point guard, who I thought was terrible early in the year, has completely turned it around. I'm sorry.
He was Jeremy Fears. He was terrible. Like
Fears,
he was
yeah.
I watched him. He was horrible.
But he isn't now. His game has come along. He's developing, is maturing, like sophomore point guards tend to do, and so he's a nice player. Cooper is just a piece, but Izzo has built him into the kind of guy he wants: physical, rugged. The other guy who's Cohen Carr. Yeah, he's probably the best athlete in the Big Ten as a runner and jumper.
You know, he reminds me of Brent Petway.
Yeah,
Air Georgia.
Yeah, only Brett Petway, only with a little more restraint, and so I think he's a you know, I used to go out and watch Petway shoot, and what would he in the summers? What would he do? He would do 2 shots, dunks, which he didn't really need to work on very much, and 3-point shots, which were hopeless. And I would sit there thinking, you know, if the guy developed a mid-range game, he's going to be one hell of a basketball player because he was off the charts athletically, but he never did. So Cohen Carr, yeah, you're right. He's in the Brett Petway kind of range. I agree with that. And then they don't have much of a bench really, or much after that. They've got this guy, I haven't really seen him play. He's in the box scores. Do you know the 5th guy? He made the 3.
Ogachukwu?
Yeah.
Yeah, Divine Ogachukwu. He redshirted at Miami last year, and then he's kind of just a guy. They're bringing him along more. You know how Izzo will hold his freshmen back for a while and then like play them half a year so they don't go to the NBA or something like that. I don't think this guy's any threat to go to the NBA right away, but he's definitely a better player than Jordan Scott, who they're playing in there before, Kurt Tang. They're a better team than they were earlier in the year. This team is built to win the Big Ten. That's what these guys do. They play tough. Kohler, you pointed out Kohler was like a 32% shooter until this year, I think, career. And all of a sudden he's hitting 44% of his threes. He's also a really good 2-point shooter, right? They like to find him in that little
phenomenal shooter overall.
Yeah,
Fears.
Yeah, Fears.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and Fears, man. Now, first of all, Michigan State inflates their assist rate, so he does not have a 52 assist rate. That's insane. And I know the Michigan scorer is like they hate this. They know that they're lying. I think Northwestern does it too, but Michigan State's the worst about this. They count everything in assists. So he's got like listed as a 52 assist rate, and this is why they get like on these lists all the time. But he is a really good creator, especially considering he's not much of a shooter. He's 27% from three this year. He does have a decent floater, but it's not really an effective, like 43% or something. He does get to the free throw line. He is fantastic at drawing contact, especially in the Big Ten where they believe everything, and he knocks those down. And that's a real that makes it difficult. It's hard to keep your bigs in the game against this guy because he's just going to run into them, and they're going to call a foul on your guy because he's drawing the contact, and then he makes his free throws, and it's just they're so frustrating to play. Every time you go for a rebound, Jackson Kohler is going to be draped on your back. Carson Cooper is going to be ripping you down. They just get away with so much. They are such a Big Ten team.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at that point guard matchup, which is where I'll go with Fears.
Me too.
That's the most interesting one because Craig nailed it. He was bad early in the year, and he has turned into a real catalyst for them. And you got Elliot Cadeau, who's been having an outstanding season, in my opinion, coming off his worst game, absolute worst game in a Michigan uniform. And so between that and the magnitude of this matchup, I just think that's right for bringing him to his best in this matchup too. And I think that could really determine the game. Can you make Fears look more like he's going to look like he did in the Duke game? But can you get him off of what did he have against Rutgers? I can't. What did he have, like 25 or something like that?
Yeah, he had a good game. I didn't see that game. I just know it went into overtime when they hit a quasi brick at the buzzer.
You can't let that dude look like a 5-star. And he has been looking more like the player they recruited him to be of late, and I give him credit for that. But Elliot Cadeau has been looking more like a 5-star this season, shooting over. I don't know what his percentages are on this, but it felt like he was after the last game, but he was shooting over 40% from three, or close to 40% from three.
Let me check it.
You know, he has.
Yeah, Cadeau is 41% from three from the year, which made it a little frustrating for me the other night when you could see he felt like I'm not in my game, and he just turned down shots that I thought were good looks.
Yeah, and then he's coming into traffic to get turnovers that way as well.
Yeah.
He's out of sorts. I don't expect that to be the case, even though Michigan State's a much better defensive team, a much more physical defensive team. I just don't think the triumvirate of sort of, I won't call them they were ineffective. They're the three guys that you have come to look to: your best 3-point shooter, your best player, and of course your point guard, who has really been stirring the coffee. All of those guys were off in the last game, and I just don't anticipate that happening 2 games in a row.
Yeah, Fears is the number 7 Ken Pom player overall this year, which is offense, of course. But it's buoyed not by his 28% 3-point percentage, which is what he is shooting, but by his number 1 assist rate of, I think you said, Sam, 52%, or maybe Seth said it. Do I believe he's at a 52% assist rate? No. Do I believe his assist rate is really, really good? Yes.
It's like it's the real one is like 36, I think.
Yeah.
I used to be able to calculate this, and it's hard to do, but like just getting the data is hard. But I used to have a play-by-play generator, and then I used to have everyone's play-by-play, and I would generate it. All you have to do is take the assist rate that he gets on the road, and then like adjust for home. Because at Michigan State, they just add every time you pass it into the paint, and then you back somebody down, they give they give Fears an assist for that. But he is probably like 36, maybe even a 40 for real, and that's a very high assist rate. He does generate a lot, and that's gonna be really tough. Michigan switching Rez Johnson or whatever on him, because that's how we want to play them on the perimeter. he's going to find holes. He's going to find little pockets, and it's not like the hole has to be at the rim. He can just get the ball to like a little space, and they're going to just put it up and have an open jumper. And those open jumpers, the way that they're going to play Michigan to try to drag this game down, that might be good enough, right? Whichever team can shoot 50% instead of 42% in this game is going to win.
Yeah. So the statistical matchup at point guard, I think, is going to be what was going to tail the tape, or what is going to be the tail of the tape, or be the tail of the game. Can he go out? Can Elliott go out and play like he played against Villanova with in a loss, where he kind of put the team on his back for a minute? Can he play to that level? And then what will Fears look like in this game? In their most comparable matchup of the season against Duke, he was utterly horrible. He's going to be better than that. Yeah. But can you make him inefficient is the question. And that's a charge for Michigan in this game, in my opinion. So
yeah,
you'll see.
I think I'm worried about Cadeau's turnovers. Like if you looked at the Nebraska game, I think there was 4 or 5 turnovers, and then there were just hip checks or tackle, that kind of stuff is going to happen at Michigan State for sure. Fears plays physical, he plays good. These guys are the number 1 defense in the country right now,
and for a reason.
For
a reason. I mean, Izzo. I despise Izzo, but I admire his ability to coach defense in particular, and they play hard. So it's going to be a tough game for Michigan.
It's going to be a fun game to watch. Can't wait. Folks, appreciate you joining us again, as always, here on the Roundtable. And we will see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the Big1050.com.